What is going down, good people? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make those catchy, super catchy flute melodies that Jetsonmade makes. That was a quick introduction. But yeah, let's dive straight into this video. If you guys are interested in taking your beat sales to the next level, when I say next level, I mean how to sell beats through SoundCloud, Instagram, how to grow on those platforms, YouTube, how to automate your sales. If you want to know how to do all of that, I've dropped a new video course called Internet Producer Gems. There's over 3 hours worth of footage, my whole conversations with artists, how I go about, moving through conversations efficiently and all that kind of stuff. But if you are interested, hit the link below and get on that. But yeah, let's dive into the tutorial. Alright, good people. Jesus Christ. Okay, we are in FL Studio and I actually made this beat yesterday. However, the screen recording kept messing up on me. I recorded the whole thing, pressed stop recording, and then the whole thing just glitched. So I'm gonna basically just dissect what I've done with this melody, and it makes more sense to do it this way because that way I'm not just clicking notes in and not talking to you guys. So yeah, let me just get this loaded up and we will get into it. Oh my god, the lighting is so much better. So we've got this project here. Let me just give you a quick preview of how that sounds. And as you can see, it's not way complicated in terms of the melody. But there is a few key things that I want to touch on that can basically give you that Jetson-made type of vibe to it. Now the first thing that you want to start off with is getting your chord progression done first, because it makes making the lead melody, like the flutes and the piccolos and all that kind of stuff, a lot easier. So for me, I first started out with this very basic chord progression, so ignore these top notes. Pay attention to these really short notes down here. So basically what I started out with was just some minor chord scales, some dark, minor chord is dark, so I made some dark chords to begin with. And as you can see, it literally got the same chord, dun, dun, a little bit different there, there's a little key up here, but majority of it's the same. The key is just to give it a nice little bounce. And then the little thing that I did on top here was just add something that gives it, just some kind of direction. So I just added in this little triplet sort of down effect, and then the chords just kind of sat underneath it. So I'll just play that by itself and you can hear what it sounds like. The key thing is just to make sure that you're staying within the scale and you will be fine. Now in terms of sound selection, Jetsonmade type beats, he uses quite unconventional sounds, so he doesn't really use that many realistic sounds. I'd say more of the computerized organs and harps and those Asian kind of plucky sounds. So if you stick to those, you should be fine. Now once you got your chord progression, you can, depending on the sound selection, you may want to add a layer to that. So for me, that's quite a thin sound, so I went and added in another sound which literally was the exact same chord progression, the exact same keys. I just needed something else to fill out the frequency range. So this is that sound by itself, and I'll play them both together. Again, something quite unconventional, but when you sort of link those two together, it sounds quite nice. Okay, boom. Okay, now I've got my chord progression set. I'm good to go with the lead melody. Now this is the main source. So the first thing that I am going to use, and the plugin that I used for this was Redtron. The Redtron flute plugin is totally free and you get a really nice sound from it. Any kind of flute, piccolo, recorder sound out of any plugin, Expand, Gravity, Purity, this plugin, doesn't matter. All of these plugins are super cheap, so it shouldn't hurt your budget too much. Now this is the melody by itself, and I'll walk you through the key points to look out for, the key things to think about when you're making these kind of melodies. Okay, now it does sound super complex and jumpy and bouncy, but in reality it really isn't. Now I'm going to tell you exactly how I went about doing this, and this took less time than most melodies that I normally make. So I had the main chord progression in there, and I had the ghost channels, the ghost notes, and if you don't know what ghost notes are, you see these faded keys in the background. There's a few down here as well. That is the other keys that are within that pattern. They're just sort of sat in the background so you can see where you've drawn them in. And this like will save you so much time when it comes to making these types of melodies, because the rule of thumb for this is just follow the keys that are within the chord progression. Doesn't matter which key it is that you've used, trial and error it. So for me, I just went with the root note of the chord progression. Don't always have to do that, but I started off with the root note, which was A minor. And then I just kind of played with the keys, went down to C because you can see right there, there's a C note, ghost note there. Went up to D sharp because there's a D within the chord progression there. Back down to C because if you see closely right there, it's followed by a ghost note that says C sharp. Back up to F, see there's another key there, F, D, and it basically you just sort of follow it as it goes. And it will take trial and error, you just draw stuff in, take a listen. If it doesn't sound good, rinse and repeat the process until you get a nice sound from it. So that is literally all I did with the melody. Now I want to point out something that's essential for this. Now if you notice, I've gone all the way from A sharp right down to C, which if you were to kind of draw a line between those two notes, is really harsh, which you don't want to do. So if you want to do something like that, I'd highly suggest you add these triplet effects in here. So you see I've got these three notes that kind of trickle down into C. That's going to be key in sort of giving the melody a nice bounce and a nice flow. If I were to just take these out, it wouldn't sound good at all. So in fact, let me take them out and give you a comparison. So this is like without those triplet notes. Sounds okay, it doesn't sound great. Now with the triplet notes. I mean, it just gives it a real natural kind of flow to it, and that's exactly what you want to get with these kind of melodies, because if you've got notes jumping up and down, then you need that transition. Other than that, that's pretty much the main basis for the lead melody. Is just follow the chord progression or the notes within the chord progression. Use the triplets to kind of transition between each note. That gives it a really nice fluent vibe, especially with flutes and recorders and piccolos. And then basically you're just gonna have that play for a bar, repeat it again for another bar, maybe add a tiny variation, and then for the last bar of the full 8 bar, so this section here, you're just going to add some kind of variation, and again just make sure you're staying within the chord progression and you'll be fine. Just make it a little bit different from the rest of the melody, and that is literally it. So let me just give you a preview of the full melody with the chords and everything else. Okay, now that is the melody in its entirety. Now there's one extra step, and it's kind of a side step if you want to put it in. You don't have to put it in, but I have. And that is that you plug the gaps. And what I mean by plugging the gaps is by just filling in 1 or 2 spaces within the melody that, just sound a little bit empty. So for me, and this is what I do 9 times out of 10, if I'm wanting to do this kind of thing, I'd go with a sharp or sort of short hit kind of sound. Either a brass hit or a bell hit or a chime hit, something like that. Use one of those sounds to kind of fill in the gaps. So for me, I've gone with a brass sound. But the key is, again, not to overcomplicate. Literally, take a look at my MIDI. 2 keys and then one of the same keys in a higher octave. It's that simple. But that just basically gives it a nice bit of variation, especially if you want to bring sounds in and out throughout the beat. So this is what that sounds like by itself. Literally that simple, there's not much to it, but in context with the rest of the melody, it makes more sense. And that wraps up the melody tutorial. If you guys actually want me to do a drum tutorial for Jetsonmade type beats, because that's the prominent sound in most of his beats, then just drop me a comment down below. Go and give it a try, and yeah, see how you get on with it. And that wraps up today's tutorial, good people. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did find any of this useful, make sure you go ahead and leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you guys think. And if you have any requests as well, make sure they are known down in the comments. I read every comment, so go ahead and leave those suggestions or requests down below. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys in the next one.